While dinosaurs were dying out, it lay there. While continents drifted apart, while seas dried up, while entire ecosystems froze, it lay there. While mammoths, saber-toothed cats, and giant sloths appeared and vanished, it lay on the shore and waited. It didn't evolve. It didn't change shape. It didn't go looking for new solutions. It simply existed, and it outlived everyone. The crocodile has been on this planet for 200 million years. The first humans appeared roughly 300,000 years ago, which means the crocodile is over 660 times older than we are. It watched the sunrises and sunsets of the dinosaurs. It survived the asteroid that wiped out 75% of all life on Earth. It survived 5 mass extinctions. And today it lies on the banks of the Nile, on the banks of the Amazon, on the banks of rivers in Australia, same body, same strategy, same eyes. Alive. Unchanged. Victorious. I'll be honest, one thought stopped me when I started looking into this subject. We call the crocodile a primitive living fossil, a relic of the past. But how exactly does a primitive creature survive everything this one has survived? Maybe we've misunderstood what perfection actually looks like. Today we're talking about the real crocodile, not the image from horror movies and tourist warning signs, but a creature that is one of the most complex and misunderstood animals on the planet. Stay until the end. About halfway through, you'll learn something about the crocodile's mind that will change how you look at it for good. Let's start with the basics. What is a crocodile, exactly? Crocodiles are not lizards, and they're not dinosaurs, even though they look like they could be either. They belong to the order Crocodilomorpha, which arose roughly 240 million years ago, around the same time dinosaurs first appeared. That means crocodiles aren't descendants of dinosaurs. They're the same age. They lived side by side with them for nearly 200 million years. Then one group disappeared, and the other remained. Here's a fact that changes the entire picture. According to modern classification, crocodiles are genetically closer to birds than to any other living reptile. Birds and crocodiles are the only surviving members of the archosaurs, the same broader group dinosaurs belong to. When you look at a crocodile, you are, quite literally, looking at the closest living relative of a sparrow. That's not a metaphor, it's a phylogenetic fact. Today there are 23 living species of crocodilians on Earth: true crocodiles, alligators, caimans, and gharials. They inhabit tropical regions on every continent except Europe and Antarctica, and each species carries its own story, stories we are still only beginning to fully understand. But first, let's talk about the body. Because the crocodile's body is the actual answer to how this creature survived everything. The crocodile is a survival machine, not figuratively, literally. Let's start with the skin. What you see on the outside isn't just armor. Beneath it sit osteoderms, bony plates embedded directly under the skin in larger species, dense enough to stop small caliber bullets. Not always, not every shot, but the fact has been documented. That same skin contains thousands of microscopic sensory receptors, integumentary sense organs that detect the tiniest vibrations in water, a falling leaf, the movement of a fish 10 meters away. A crocodile lying in complete darkness, eyes fully closed, in murky water, still senses everything happening around it. The bite force of a Nile crocodile reaches roughly 5,000 pounds per square inch, among the strongest bite forces of any living animal on the planet. For comparison, a lion's bite is around 650 pounds per square inch, a great white shark's around 660. A crocodile bites roughly 10 times harder than a lion. 10 times. But here's the paradox: the muscles that open the jaw are so weak that an experienced handler can hold a crocodile's mouth shut with their bare hands. Nature poured everything into the grip. Opening up again was never the priority. Crocodile teeth don't chew, they fix. A crocodile doesn't chew its prey, it spins it. This is the death roll. The animal locks its jaws onto the prey and begins rotating around its own axis, right there in the water, letting physics do the rest. Limbs are torn away. The body is broken into pieces small enough to swallow whole. It's a mechanism so efficient that biomechanics researchers study it directly. The crocodile developed its own method for processing prey, and it's been using the exact same method for 200 million years. The crocodile's stomach is its own story. The acidity of its gastric juice is higher than that of any other vertebrate. It digests bone, horn, hoof, turtle shell, almost anything. What the stomach can't digest, it compensates for with gastroliths, stones the crocodile deliberately swallows, which help grind food from the inside and regulate buoyancy in the water. The crocodile is cold-blooded, which means it spends almost no energy maintaining its own body temperature. It doesn't need to eat every day, or even every week. An adult crocodile can go more than a year without food. One successful strike is enough to cover months of hunger. This is the strategy of a winner: spend the absolute minimum, gain the maximum. And this is exactly what hasn't changed in 200 million years. But the body is only half the story. Because the crocodile turns out to be capable of things no one expected from it. The crocodile can show care, and this might be the most unexpected thing I learned about it, because in my head, this animal was a cold machine, reflex, instinct, no emotion, no connection. The reality turned out to be completely different. A female Nile crocodile lays anywhere from 20 to 80 eggs, burying them in sand or hiding them in a nest of vegetation on the riverbank, and then she doesn't leave. For 3 months. She doesn't hunt. She simply guards. In the heat, she pours water over the nest with her mouth. In a drought, she shields it with the shadow of her own body. 3 months of waiting, without food, without rest, beside the nest. When the hatchlings are ready to emerge, they begin to squeak from inside the ground, and the mother hears them. She digs up the nest with her claws and teeth, carefully, millimeter by millimeter, so as not to crush the shells, and then she takes the hatchlings into her mouth. That same mouth, with a bite force 10 times stronger than a lion's, and carries them to the water, alive and completely unharmed. I had to reread that several times. I couldn't immediately accept that this was the same animal. And the hatchlings stay close to their mother for up to 2 years. She protects them from herons and crows. She calls other crocodiles with a specific sound when she senses danger, and the young respond by hiding beneath her body, under the armored body of a creature we like to think of as cold and soulless. And that's not even the limit of what's unexpected. In 2013, biologists published a study that the scientific community discussed at length. Several crocodile species were observed engaging in play behavior. Rolling bright objects around in the water. Voluntarily carrying baby birds on their backs without aggression. Young individuals splashing around with no practical purpose at all. Play behavior was, until recently, considered a marker reserved for highly developed mammals and birds. Now crocodiles are on that list too. And here's where things get genuinely fascinating. A crocodile's brain isn't structured the way we long assumed. For decades it was treated as reptilian in the worst sense of the word, primitive, purely reflexive, with no higher functions. But research over the past 20 years paints a different picture entirely. Individual behavior has been recorded in crocodiles, different individuals responding differently to identical conditions. They remember locations and routes for years. They recognize specific people, the ones who fed them, and the ones who chased them off, and react differently depending on which one they encounter again. In Costa Rica, a case was documented that became widely known in zoological circles. A local man named Chito formed a friendship with a specific crocodile, named Pocho, that lasted more than 20 years. He swam with him. He embraced him. Pocho died in 2011 of natural causes. This wasn't a circus act, and it wasn't training, it was a long-term, documented relationship between a human being and a crocodile, one that scientists still can't fully explain within a purely reflexive model of animal behavior. The crocodile isn't what it appears to be, and the deeper you go into this subject, the more that becomes clear. We judge this creature entirely by its appearance, and that appearance has been deceiving us for 200 million years. The crocodile communicates, and it does so in ways far more complex than most people assume. It doesn't have vocal cords in the conventional sense, but it produces sound regardless. Hatchlings squeak and chirp constantly. Adults growl, hiss, and emit a low-frequency hum that a human being feels through the body rather than hears with the ears. Infrasound, the same range elephants use to communicate across kilometers. A crocodile produces it in the water, and the vibration spreads across the surface in concentric rings, like a stone dropped into a still pond. Its hearing is sharp. Its eyes are built to see almost as well underwater as above the surface. It has a vertical pupil, like a cat's, plus a nictitating membrane that protects the eye while functioning almost like a built-in pair of swim goggles. The nostrils, eyes, and ears all sit in a single line along the top of the skull, which lets a crocodile lie almost entirely submerged while still breathing, seeing, and hearing everything happening on the surface. Evolution didn't stumble onto this by accident, it's the design of an ambush predator, taken to its logical extreme. Now, how a crocodile actually hunts, because it's an art form in itself. A crocodile doesn't chase prey. It waits. Sometimes for hours. Sometimes for days. It remembers the routes animals take to reach a watering hole. It remembers the timing. Research has shown that crocodiles can anticipate the arrival of prey and position themselves in advance. That's not reflex, that's planning. A crocodile's strike is one of the fastest movements among large animals on the planet, from complete stillness to a full capture in under a second, reaching speeds of up to 30 miles per hour over a short distance, even on land. A crocodile looks clumsy lying still, but over the first few meters it generates a burst of speed most people simply wouldn't have time to react to. There's something else that's rarely talked about: crocodiles hunt together. This has been documented. Multiple individuals coordinate their movements when going after large prey or dense schools of fish. One drives, others intercept, with no clear hierarchy and no leader giving commands. Just synchronized behavior that scientists still can't fully explain. Social hunting, in an animal we've long treated as the most primitive of reptiles. When several crocodiles take down a single large carcass, each one grabs its own section and spins in the opposite direction from its neighbors. Physics tears the body apart far more efficiently than any tool could. No one interferes with anyone else. No one fights over space. It almost looks like an agreement. Had you ever heard anything like this about crocodiles before? Tell me in the comments. I'm genuinely curious what image of this animal you had walking into this video. Hunting, though, is only one side of a crocodile's life, because there's something else it does for the ecosystem around it, something entire rivers depend on. A crocodile isn't just a predator. It's an architect. Ecologists use that word for species that actively shape the environment around them. A beaver builds dams and reroutes rivers. An elephant carves paths and creates corridors for other animals to move through. A crocodile does something just as important, just far less visible. During the dry season, when rivers shrink and pools dry out, crocodiles dig holes directly into the riverbed, wide, deep depressions carved out with body, claws, and tail, and these holes hold water where otherwise there would be none. Every living thing nearby comes to rely on them: fish, turtles, birds, mammals. The crocodile creates the last surviving oasis, and an entire local community survives around it. And while it hunts in those same holes, it doesn't wipe out the fish population, it regulates it, preventing overcrowding and the mass die-offs that would follow if the fish ran out of food on their own. A predator becomes a caretaker. This is called an ecosystem engineer, and the crocodile fully earns the title. Crocodile droppings are rich in nutrients and fertilize the surrounding water, stimulating the growth of algae and plankton, the very base of an entire river's food chain. In regions where crocodile populations have collapsed due to hunting, researchers have recorded a measurable shrinking in average fish size. It's the same effect documented with wolves in Yellowstone: remove the predator, and the system unravels. Reintroduce it, and the system rebuilds. With crocodiles, it's the same story, just far less widely known. The relationship between crocodiles and humans is older than most recorded history. The first humans in Africa lived alongside crocodiles from the very beginning, sharing the same rivers, the same watering holes, the same shorelines. The crocodile was part of the landscape before the very concept of danger had a name, and people understood this creature very quickly. In ancient Egypt, the crocodile was a god. Sobek, the crocodile-headed deity associated with the Nile's annual flooding, was a symbol of military power and fertility. Pharaohs incorporated his name into their own titles. In the city the Greeks would later call Crocodilopolis, a sacred crocodile was kept, fed, adorned with gold earrings and bracelets, and upon its death, mummified and honored. Archaeologists have uncovered thousands of crocodile mummies across Egypt. The Nile was a place where crocodiles regularly killed people. This was known, and it was accepted. A god can be deadly. That's not a contradiction. That's the entire point. In other cultures, the relationship looked different but ran just as deep. On the island of Timor in Indonesia, local legend still holds that the crocodile is the ancestor of humankind. The island itself is said to be the body of a giant crocodile that transformed into land for the sake of people. Killing a crocodile there means killing an ancestor, a taboo that has held for centuries. In Papua New Guinea, men of the Chambri people deliberately scar their own skin in patterns resembling crocodile scales, a painful initiation ritual that lasts for weeks. The point isn't defeating the animal. The point is becoming it, taking on its strength, its invulnerability, its longevity. In Australia, Aboriginal communities of the Northern Territory have lived alongside saltwater crocodiles for tens of thousands of years. Their mythology is filled with crocodile imagery, creatures from the dreamtime, shapers of rivers, keepers of water. And at the same time, people knew precisely where not to swim, and at what time of day. This is called ecological knowledge, and it's more precise than any warning sign could ever be. I'll be honest, I couldn't help but sit with this point for a while. Almost every culture that lived near crocodiles didn't try to wipe them out. They sought a relationship instead, fear and respect held together, worship paired with caution. That's a kind of wisdom we lost somewhere along the way, because the next chapter of this story looks completely different. But first, one fact that loops this story back to where we began: age. Crocodiles live an extraordinarily long time. Average lifespan in the wild ranges from 30 to 70 years depending on the species. Saltwater crocodiles in captivity have lived past 100. Which means a crocodile lying on the banks of the Nile right now may well remember the world before the first tourist boats, the first motor engines, the first dams arrived. It saw a different river. It remembers it. In the 20th century, people decided crocodile skin was a commodity. From the 1950s through the 1970s, crocodiles were killed on a scale that's almost impossible to comprehend. In the Amazon basin alone, estimates suggest between 8 and 10 million crocodilians were destroyed over the span of 2 decades. In Africa, the Nile crocodile was effectively wiped out across regions where it had once been common. In Australia, by the 1970s, the saltwater crocodile had nearly vanished from most of its historical range. Bags, shoes, belts, suitcases, crocodile skin became a status symbol, and that symbol nearly destroyed a species 200 million years in the making. The ecological consequences were immediate. In rivers where crocodiles disappeared, fish populations went out of balance, a brief surge, followed by a sharp collapse. Without predator regulation, fish numbers outgrew the available food supply, and entire water systems became overgrown and degraded. It took years to fully unfold, but it happened. One link was removed, and the chain broke. Fortunately, this was noticed in time. In 1975, crocodiles were added to CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. Hunting was severely restricted, and several species received full legal protection. And then something remarkable happened. It turned out that, given the chance, crocodiles recover fast. The Nile crocodile rebounded across many regions within just 20 to 30 years of protection being introduced. The saltwater crocodile in Australia, down to only a few thousand individuals by 1971, has since recovered to a population of roughly 100,000. It's one of the most successful wildlife recovery stories in the entire history of conservation. The crocodile survived again, as it always does. But here's the catch: formal hunting has largely stopped, yet the pressure hasn't disappeared, it's simply changed shape. The destruction of riverbanks for agriculture and development strips crocodiles of nesting sites. Water pollution reduces fish populations, their primary food source. And climate change is altering the temperature of the sand their eggs are buried in, which matters enormously, because in crocodiles, the sex of a hatchling isn't determined by genetics. It's determined by incubation temperature. A few extra degrees, and an entire clutch can hatch as a single sex. After a few generations of that shift, a population simply stops being able to reproduce. Nature built the crocodile to withstand any challenge 200 million years ago, but it never had to withstand what humans have done to the planet in the last 100. This is a genuinely new kind of pressure, and the crocodile doesn't have a ready answer for it yet. We opened with that line. But now we actually know what was lying on that shore. It wasn't some primitive leftover, some dug-up relic. It was a creature wearing armor and carrying built-in sensors. A creature with a bite 10 times stronger than a lion's, and a mouth gentle enough to carry its own young to the water completely unharmed. A creature with blood that kills bacteria antibiotics can't touch, with a body that barely ages, with behavior we are only now learning to read correctly. It lay there and waited, not because it couldn't do anything else, but because waiting is its form of perfection. In 300,000 years, we built cities, wrote symphonies, and reached the moon. the crocodile has barely changed in 200 million. Which one of us actually evolved? There's no obvious answer to that question, especially considering that right now, for the first time in 200 million years, in the age of humans, the crocodile has finally proven genuinely vulnerable. Not to an asteroid. Not to an ice age. To us. Did you know any of this before today? The blood, the tool use, the negligible aging? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious which one of these surprised you the most. There's an ancient Egyptian text, one of the oldest written records, that mentions the crocodile, describing it as a creature that lives on the shores of two worlds, water and land, life and death, past and present. The Egyptians wrote that 4,000 years ago. They knew nothing about negligible senescence or antibacterial blood serum, but they saw the essential truth anyway: the crocodile really does live on the shores of two worlds. It belongs to a time that no longer exists, and at the same time, it's lying right here, right now, gray, half submerged in sunlight, the exact same age as the dinosaurs, and a contemporary of smartphones. It has survived everything this planet has thrown at it for 200 million years. And right now, it's lying on the shore, mouth slightly open, staring into the distance through a yellow vertical pupil. It is in no hurry. It has never been in a hurry.